This is Delta Launch Control, 95 minutes, 53 seconds into the flight of the Delta II. And joining us here now is Garrett Scrobot. He is the ELaNa Mission Manager from the NASA Launch Services Program at Kennedy Space Center. And Garrett, we're coming up on the first ejection of the first P-pod. Show us what it is that's coming out, if you can.
Yeah, George, it's great that we're almost here to eject our first CubeSats. As you saw earlier, Roland showed you the P-pod, and what will come out on the first one is this small 4-inch cube the size of a Beanie Baby. There's 3 of them in the first ejection, and then on the second P-pod ejection, 100 seconds later, you're going to have a full 3U, which we have 3 of these lined up together to make a full satellite. And then the last P-pod, when it ejects, it's going to have what they call 2 1.5Us, which is just a little bit longer, and these two will do experiments together.
So tell us which one is going to come out here at about another minute and a half.
Just about a minute. We have the first three universities, Montana, Auburn University, and Michigan.
And then how much time is there between when those deploy and when the next set comes out?
Approximately about 100 seconds in between each one of them. And we have 100 seconds in between them for what we call collision avoidance between the cubes. We don't ensure that we don't recontact the cube from another pod ejecting. So we have a short duration between each one of them to vary the orbits a little bit so they'll be safe to everybody.
All right, we're going to be listening here, I think, to Steve Agate come up again in just a minute to confirm that we had the first ejection from the P-pod carrier that Roland showed us.
Yeah, just about 30 seconds. We showed in the press conference that the pod is actually mounted on the second stage, just below the MPP, which was successfully separated earlier this evening. And now there's kids all around the United States waiting to hear the sounds.
Bye. We see the break wire for P-pod 1. P-pod 1 has separated, and so Orbisat 1M cubed and Explorer 1 Prime have separated from the Delta II launch vehicle.
All right, it's time for we got the first one open.
First one's out. So now let's see.
1 minute and 15 seconds now for P-pod 2 separation. P-pod 2, the poly-pico satellite orbital.
So now we're counting down to the second one.
Experiment called RAX, the radio
and we got just about a minute to go.
Experiment from the University of Michigan.
Okay, this is the University of Michigan one.
Yeah, and one of the things, George, is we still have to wait 45 minutes after the cubes separate before they turn the RF systems on. And that's to ensure that we don't interfere with the launch vehicle and the RF. But we've already got confirmation from our ground stations in South Africa and Spain and France that they're ready to pick up some of the signals for us.
So we'll know that the P-pods have deployed, but it'll be some amount of time before they actually have contact with them and know that
it'll be about another hour before we start getting some beacons from them to see if they're, the liveness of them. And then the primary ground stations at the universities will start collecting the data and start initiating the science.
All right, let's listen to Steve Agate again, who will be calling the next deployment.
35 minutes, 45 seconds in, about 15 seconds now until P-pod 2 deploy. And we have deploy of P-pod 2, the RAX experiment, the radio aurora ionosphere experiment from the University of Michigan, successfully separated from the Delta II launch vehicle.
All right, and which one is coming up finally?
The last one is DICE from Utah State University.
That's the big one, right?
It's 2 together, but they have some very complicated mechanisms on them that they've had some tough times getting through, but they've made it, and we're anxiously awaiting their science to come through so we can gather that.
All right, we're about a minute away. And each of these spacecraft have their own ground station somewhere to get
Yes, they all have their own ground stations, but there's a community of students around the world that gets the initial beacon data from them, just the beak, just to get some power and voltages just to make sure they're alive.
Okay.
And then their main ground stations will commission them and then download their main data.
And so they can start getting science, what, almost right away, I guess.
Practically right away. Usually, probably in the fifth orbit today, they'll be going over United States ground stations, and then the team's already tailored up to collect that data for them.
Okay, let's listen to Steve Agate once again to give us confirmation on the third one on DICE.
We have Peapod 3 separation.
All right, there it is.
Explorer number 3 is now successfully separated from the Delta 2 second stage.
ELaNa 3 is on orbit.
All right.
That experiment from Utah State University.
So
1 hour, 42 minutes.
I guess is something that all of these students, and I guess they have been in a lot of different locations around the country watching for
They're
this,
all over the United States and their ground stations preparing to collect the data, and my team's going to go off and get ready for ELaNa 6 in the July timeframe.
And that will be launched.
Be on the West Coast on an Atlas 5 with the NRO.
Okay. All right. So it's another one from here at Vandenberg.
Yes.
All right. All right, Garrett. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George.
Mission manager for the ELaNa program. And with that, we will conclude our launch coverage for NPP and the ELaNa mission at 102 minutes into the flight of the Delta II. This is Delta Launch Control.